Hey there, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be going over a 7-round mock draft for the New Orleans Saints. This is a team heading into the offseason. There's a lot of questions about what the roster construction is going to look like. With the head coaching change from Sean Payton to Dennis Allen, what is this team going to look like heading into next year? There's a lot of unknowns with the roster, but one way you can always improve is through the draft. So we are going to be going ahead and getting right started with it. And when you look at this Saints team, they are pretty talented roster wise. There's a lot of cap issues that they're going to have to try to navigate and figure out, restructuring, and also making some really, really tough cuts. And there's obviously some players that you want to re-sign, and that makes it really, really tough. And kind of looking at what the team needs are here, they do list wide receiver, offensive tackle, safety, interior D line. And those are almost certainly true. So let's kind of evaluate what we do have on the board. Jameson Williams, the burner from Alabama, I could see him being a really nice threat in that offense. If you have Jameis Winston back next year, you'll have Michael Thomas healthy. We're not exactly sure, what's going to happen with Alvin Kamara. So, once again, there's a lot of unknowns. I think wide receiver is a clear and obvious need. Also you could look at that safety spot being important as well. With Marcus Williams, we don't know the status of him, if they're going to be able to get a deal done, considering he was just playing under that franchise tag. It's really crucial for the Saints team to make some tough decisions. They're going to have to let some talented players go. But looking at what you do have available, Jameson Williams, if you can afford to wait on him heading into next year, I think that's well worth it. Garrett Wilson is a really fun prospect to watch. One of the best route runners in the entire draft. He's phenomenal with the ball in his hands, super elusive. That could definitely be an option for me as well. I think I am going to stick at that wide receiver spot. I'm not sure how the Saints feel about Jameis Winston long-term, but I don't know if I'm prepared to take a quarterback. If we take a look at what is available, you still have the Kenny Pickett, you got Matt Corral, Sam Howell, Desmond Ridder, to just name a few that are available to you. However, I am going to opt for the wide receiver. There's just too much talent on the board. And with where this team stands, I think I'm actually going to take Garrett Wilson here. Garrett Wilson, the Ohio State product. They felt comfortable selecting from Ohio State. They've drafted a lot of really good players from there. Not to say that, that's fully indicative on what they'll do. They'll take the best player available, but I think considering he's healthy, he's a phenomenal individual talent. To me, this makes too much sense to do with that 18th overall selection. The New Orleans Saints here get an absolute stud in Garrett Wilson. You pair him with Michael Thomas, potentially Jameis Winston next year when healthy. This could be an interesting team, definitely. I think they're going to be in that playoff conversation, considering what they do have on the roster. And now we fast forward to pick 49. Pick 49 is not going to be as easy to decide what you want to do. I think it is noteworthy, with the Armstead contract, therefore lack of, I think you have to consider it. I mean, you have Ryan Ramczyk as a franchise cornerstone along that offensive line. I think you got to almost keep that same energy. It's almost tough. You look at a guy like Sam Howell. I mean, maybe that's your next quarterback of the future. Once again, it's really tough. Jameis Winston showed some progression with his time in New Orleans. I think that's something that you can write home about. However, I'm just looking at that offensive line. It's really tough with the contract situations. Nicholas Pettiford definitely makes some sense. I'm going to look at who else is available at that tackle spot. A couple of guys definitely caught my eye at the Senior Bowl, Trevor Penning being one of them. He is not available at that spot. So to me, I have to go back to that offensive tackle spot. Nicholas Pettiford, one of the best pass blockers in the entire class, a guy that can really hold his own in that pass protection, really good footwork. He is going to be my selection with the round 2 pick. I feel pretty comfortable, what we've added to this roster, both, once again, offensive minded selections. However, we could spread the love to the defensive side of the ball at some point as well. I think that you have an opportunity here. If you are New Orleans, you're going through a transition. Dennis Allen is getting a fair shot here. Obviously his first stint as a head coach did not go super well. However, there are pieces in place for him to have success with the New Orleans Saints. And now we come back to pick 100. Very curious to see what we do have available in terms of actual players. Brandon Smith's a really, really good individual, talented player. You look at, a guy like Michael Wright, potentially in that secondary could make some sense. Interior offensive line could make some sense. I do want to see what we have available at safety. This could be, yeah, Nick Cross from Maryland could make some sense as well. Yeah, kind of looking at the interior defensive line. Jermaine Lowell could be an interesting prospect, or John Ridgway from Arkansas. I think that's probably where we're going to go. Shai Tuttle is a restricted free agent, I believe, heading into the offseason. So you have to be mindful of that. They might not be able to get a deal done. So we're going to go ahead and bring in John Ridgway. Don't want to look offense yet again. We very well could have. However, I think getting a guy like Ridgway through the door is important with the absence potentially of Shai Tuttle heading into next year. Now we can look at that safety spot. I felt pretty comfortable with where we're at. I think Nick Cross is going to be the pick, probably the most talented of the guys that are still available. So if you're the New Orleans Saints, once again, there's going to be some guys that you lose definitely during this free agent period, just considering the lack of money they have, and they're going to have to get really creative heading into the offseason once again. Mickey Loomis has done a really nice job of that. So Nick Cross is going to be the pick in round 4, therefore potentially filling the void of the whole Marcus Williams issue that they have going on. Now we have another round 4 selection. You could definitely look at that corner spot. Interior line is also a potential need. If we check out what is available, I do like Alec Lindstrom. I really think that he is being undervalued in some of these mock drafts. And if you are the New Orleans Saints, once again, you want to make sure you're strong up front. I mean, Jameis Winston coming off of an injury, if they are able to retain him, I know I have to keep saying that, but if they do retain him, which I feel they will, you got to be strong up front. To me, Alec Lindstrom fills a need, and that's definitely where they should go with that pick. I think it's, from a value standpoint, it's hard to, pass on a guy of his caliber. A couple of other positions I do want to address is maybe wide receiver one more time. I think when you look at the depth of the receivers, you could use one more guy. We'll see what we do have available. Jalen Naylor's a guy I was impressed with from Michigan State this year. I think he could fit in very nicely with the Saints roster. Let's take a look what else is available on the overall big board. Some guys that could be potentially helpful. I mean, I see a guy like Zamir White, and I look at what New Orleans has. You're going to have another year, potentially Mark Ingram. So I think I'm going to stay away from that. Interior D line, we already addressed that, but then you can kind of look at that corner spot. The corner spot's another place depth wise that you might want to look. Jack Jones from Arizona State's an option. Matt Hankins could be another option as well. I'm actually going to take Jack Jones from Arizona State at this point. I think you do need a little bit more corner depth overall. I think that really goes a long way in helping you do that for sure. Kind of looking at what we've done so far in the draft, it's pretty impressive, what you can do if you are the New Orleans Saints. You're a team that nearly made the playoffs. I know next year, they're going to be probably close again. A lot of that play is going to hinge on Taysom Hill and, Dennis Allen. I mean, can he keep some consistency from what Sean Payton has been doing, all of these years? He's done such a nice job keeping a consistent roster, a consistent winner, a team that always really has a chance. And part of that was Drew Brees. Part of that was Sean Payton's genius. I think he is one of the more underrated coaches in league-wide history for what he's been able to do consistently, year in, year out. I think you can also here look at an edge. I think that makes some sense. Jeremiah Moon can make some sense. Christopher Allen is another guy that could work here as well. You definitely have to consider, once again, looking at that tight end room. I think that tight end room could use a little bit of a boost. Daniel Bellinger could make some sense. James Mitchell from Virginia Tech. I think that's who we're going to go with. James Mitchell from Virginia Tech. You definitely need some more depth in that tight end room for sure. So that is where we are going with that selection. New Orleans Saints doing very, very well in this draft. We've been able to cover both sides of the ball pretty evenly. And then finally, I think we're going to conclude with an edge. Once again, Jeremiah Moon is still there. We are going to take him with that 234th overall selection. Dennis Allen gets a good collection of young talent here. The New Orleans Saints nearly missed the playoffs despite having a lot of things, not necessarily go their way. It was really tough. I felt if Jameis Winston was still the starting quarterback through the end of the year, obviously the injury changes things, really they had to start Trevor Siemian, and that's the reality of the situation. But nevertheless, they were uber competitive throughout the entire year. So looking at what we did, Garrett Wilson in that first round to me is absolutely critical. Another receiver outside of Michael Thomas being able to make plays for his quarterback, whoever that may be. At 49, Nicholas Pettifreer, premier pass blocking offensive tackle. I love that for this team. John Ridgway with the next selection, followed by Nick Cross and Alec Lindstrom. I like the value on most of those guys. Nick Cross is kind of right where he needs to be, but John Ridgway and Alec Lindstrom, I think they're better potentially than what their draft selection shows. And then you had Jack Jones, James Mitchell, and Jeremiah Moon. Really good, solid draft for the New Orleans Saints. You have an opportunity next year to potentially make the postseason. That NFC South is definitely wide open. I don't think any team is definitely going to run away with it. So I think they're going to make a push this offseason to still remain competitive. They can win the division, and it's totally up in the air, considering some teams are in limbo. Right now, you got Tampa Bay kind of reeling, trying to figure out what they're going to do at the QB spot. So overall, really good position for the Saints. They can make some moves and be super competitive in that NFC South next year. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button if you are new. I appreciate all the support, and we will catch you guys in our next video.